Well, hello, good evening. Welcome to the first Hope College Family Access Chat for 2021. My name is Shonn Colbrunn. I'm the Executive Director of the Boerigter Center for Calling and Career, and I am looking forward to a good evening tonight. We've got a great set of panelists to share some expertise on the topic of experiential learning. And so the way this will work tonight is we'll do some introductions, start off with that. I'll go into some questions and share some as an opportunity for our panelists to share some of their expertise. And then we'll open it up for your questions. So as we go, if you think of questions tonight as we're talking, feel free to go ahead and use the Q&A feature in this Zoom meeting to go ahead and ask your questions. Or if you're watching on Facebook Live, feel free to type in the chat there and we'll catch your questions as well. So we'll go through that, answer some questions of yours, and then we'll wrap it up with some information and details about what's coming up this semester. So this has been truly an unusual year so far for Hope College. In a time of COVID, Hope has found a way to thrive with all of our students on campus. It's been a lot of accommodations that we've had to come up with and interesting ways of doing things. And that's affected our office and how we do things too. We are operating in a virtual format. We are still seeing students. We're seeing students through appointments and workshops and events, but it's all online. And we're seeing about the same level of engagement as we have in the previous years. So we're really excited and happy to talk about that. So as we go through our conversation tonight, this will be a chance for us to share as well about what does experiential learning look like now in this season, in this school year, and what are the things going on at Hope College, even when we can't do things the way we've always been used to doing them. So I'm looking forward to this tonight and looking forward to sharing some information and expertise and looking forward to answering your questions as we go. So just a little bit more background about me. I am a 1994 Hope grad. I benefited greatly from an internship that I had between my junior and senior year, which really helped set me up to get into my first job, which then of course led to my second job and all the jobs after that. So I'm a huge advocate and huge believer for students getting that chance to do experiential learning while they're at Hope. And since then, I had a career in human resources for quite a few years, came back to Hope about 2.5 years ago to now work at Hope. So now I check the boxes of being a Hope alumnus, a Hope employee, and just this past fall, I also checked the box of being a Hope parent, as my kids have now joined Hope College as freshmen. So I am excited to share things that I've learned over the years, and certainly identify with all the parents on the line here tonight, just in terms of some of the questions and emotions that may go along with being a parent of a college student. So I'd like to, you see the photos here of our panelists, Matt Adkins, Jena Gasworth, and Megan Scheldt. And I'm going to turn it over to them to share a little bit more about each of them and their background and what they do at the Boerigter Center. So we'll start with Megan. Megan, welcome. I'll let you introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Shonn, and thanks everyone for being here tonight. As Shonn mentioned, my name is Megan Scheldt, and I'm one of the assistant directors in the Boerigter Center for Calling and Career. I have been at Hope about 5.5 years and started my career at Hope and still loving it. I will meet with your student for a variety of topics. Specifically, I help students with their resume or curriculum vitae if the opportunity they're applying for requires that. I'll work with them on many different types of profiles, from Handshake, LinkedIn, any other type of professional portfolio they're putting together, as well as their Hope College Connection account, which we'll talk about tonight as well. And then I'll meet with your student for networking skills, connecting them with alumni or parents such as yourself for job shadowing opportunities, networking to get a job or internship, or just to interface to learn more about a career path or options within a certain major. I do many other things, including our social media. If you're not following us on our Instagram page, which we recently launched, at Hope Careers, where you can stay in the know or nudge your student to stay in the know with things that are going on in our office as well.
Thank you, Megan. All right, next up, I will introduce Jena Gasworth. Jena, welcome, and share a little bit about your role at Hope College.
Oh, thank you for your time tonight. We're excited to talk about experiential learning, and this is really my area here at Hope. So I came to Hope in 2012 and have served in a few roles. But for the longest time, I've been working specifically with internships and experiential learning. So my main focus is working with students in a personalized way. I meet with them one-on-one, and the internship and experiential search is so personalized. Your student may want to intern near home or in Holland or in Chicago and in a variety of areas. So my role supports all majors, which keeps things fun and interesting, and supports all students that might be seeking internships for credit or not for credit. And that also includes other forms of experiential learning, which we'll talk a little bit about later too, outside of just internships. And I help them with the application process. So developing a resume and developing interviewing skills to prepare for securing that internship. I also support internship faculty at the college. So faculty serve as the supervisor if your student takes an internship for credit. So I work regularly with our internship faculty across disciplines. And I also serve on a team that stays in the know about employer opportunities. So we meet weekly to explore what employers are looking for, what types of students, in what types of majors, with what opportunities, so that we can quickly respond and connect students to those opportunities.
All right, thank you, Jenna. Glad you're with us. We've got a lot of good stuff to talk to you about and to pick your brain, so we're looking forward to that. And so then finally, let me introduce Matt Adkins. Matt, welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, pleasure to be here. Pleasure to meet with so many of you virtually. Look forward to the days when we can do more of this in person, but at the same time, it's great to be able to connect with people that I assume are from a greater area than just outside of Holland, where we'd be connecting virtually anyway. I check some of the boxes that Shonn does. Hope alum, 2006, experience away from Hope, came back to Hope, so I'm a Hope employee, but I am not yet a Hope parent. I've got a 6-year-old, so in about 12 years, hopefully I'll be a Hope parent. I thought I'd give a little bit about my story in terms of experiential learning. Hopefully that's okay. I don't know if this is unique or not, but when I came to Hope, I knew exactly what I wanted to do in the short term, but I had no idea what I wanted to do for a career or how to make my short-term goal any sort of a career. So I was a total political nerd, wanted to intern at the White House, and that was it. That was my goal. That's part of the reason I chose Hope College, actually, kind of following in the footsteps of our distinguished president, if any of you know his background. I was 4 or 5 years behind him. So I came to Hope. I got really engaged with a variety of experiential learning opportunities. I did not know what that term was at the time, and I had no idea that's what I was actually doing, but I was getting plugged in on campus, working with campus groups, doing internships for my congressman here in West Michigan at the time, a political consulting firm in Grand Rapids, and all these were sort of stepping stones to my junior year. I did get to intern at the White House. I did our Washington, D.C. semester, got to intern at the White House, and that's when I first heard the term talent acquisition and executive recruitment. Those are things that were definitely not on my radar as a college student. And it's only through doing that experiential learning opportunity, doing an internship off campus, that I was exposed to that. And that became my career for about 13, 14 years after graduating from Hope. And then I came back about 2 years ago, thankfully, to work at Hope College again. So that's a little bit of my story. In terms of what I do here at Hope, I work in the Boerigter Center, and then I'm also sort of embedded in our economics and business department. But my role is basically just trying to give students exposure to different employers. So where can we bring employers to speak to our classes? Where can we find employers that'll work with a class to sponsor research? Can we find area recruiters and HR leaders that will come to Boerigter events like resume reviews or career fairs? And how can we promote internship opportunities and build partnerships with some of these companies so that your students have the same kind of internship opportunities that I have? So that's a little bit about my story and my focus here at Hope, and happy to be here.
All right, thanks, Matt. Perfect. Well, all right, I'm going to jump into some questions here for our panelists, and as I go, certainly I'll maybe throw some out specifically to each of you, but then let's all chime in and just share part of what we can share and part of our stories through these things. So Jenna, I want to start with you first. So sometimes we're using the word experiential learning and internships kind of interchangeably, but could you define experiential learning for us? And then what is it, and what are examples at Hope College of experiential learning?
Sure, I love this question. So internships are a critical part of the Hope experience because they allow your student to try things out before they graduate and before they commit, before they apply to graduate school. So students are able to try out what they're learning in the classroom in a professional setting. And that might mean one internship, and that might mean 3 internships. So it really varies for students, but it also could mean one internship, couple research experiences, or a variety. The experiential learning opportunity is sometimes required as part of your student's major. It's often encouraged, but some majors or minors here at Hope will require an experience or hours before graduation. And that might look a little bit different depending on what your student is studying. And we help them navigate that. So if they have any questions or aren't sure which department to be connected to, that's something that we're knowledgeable about and we help them navigate. And internships can sometimes affirm a career path, but also it helps things get crossed off sometimes as well. I hear students all the time tell me, yeah, I thought I would like this and I just really didn't. So I'm glad that they got to try that in a 2 or 3 month period instead of graduating, taking a job and realizing it wasn't for them. So often students are affirming career paths or sometimes finding new paths because of experiential learning. Experiential learning also allows students to just build their resume. They may have not had a job before now, or they didn't have the chance to be super involved here at Hope. So this gives them a chance to build transferable skills, which allows them to build their resume and therefore be competitive for the job search later. In addition, it also helps build their network. So students build relationships through internships and other experiential learning that goes beyond just that experience. Often we'll hear stories of students that had an internship and that sometimes lands them a full-time job and they won't even end up needing to apply. It just will transfer into a job for after graduation. So that network and those relationships are very critical for students to gain while they're in college and not wait until afterwards. What are the types of experiential learning? There are many different forms. Internships is often one that many people think of first, and that's often, where a lot of our students are doing experiences, but also experiential learning means research. We have the Summer Sharp program here at Hope, and many of the students in our sciences areas are doing research experiences, which is experiential learning. We have job shadowing, volunteerism, clinical shadowing as well. So if your student is pre-health or pre-OT, PT, thinking about medical school, they will be doing more clinical shadowing hours instead of an internship, but it could be kind of connected. So depending on your student and what they're seeking, also I forgot off-campus study and study abroad as well. So many of our programs include an internship for off-campus study and study abroad. And these are all just forms of gaining experiences and figuring out different paths as part of that resume building trial.
Yeah, thanks, Jenna. And I appreciate you mentioning how it may look different depending on the discipline, right? And so for, especially like you said, some of our students thinking about physical therapy, health sciences, nursing, right? A lot of these are built in. I'm thinking about education too, right? Can you share a little bit more about, are these built into the curriculum? How does that work?
Yes, depending on the major or discipline, it is built in, especially for nursing, of course. If your student is studying, say, kinesiology, they are required to do a 150-hour clinical shadowing experience. Many of those students are pre-PT or OT. Student teaching is built in. Nursing has their clinicals built in. Yes, so depending on your student's area, definitely can be built in depending on what they're studying.
Okay, yes, thank you. Matt, so part of what Jena touched on there is the importance of doing internships. And I want to ask you about that specifically. I mean, you're talking to companies that recruit our students all the time. So like what does it look like from your perspective and those that you talk to?
Yeah, I mean, the probably the biggest stat that sort of jumps out to me, and there's various sources where we pull this data from, but NACE, one of the main sort of bodies that covers educational institutions and employers, they're suggesting that almost 70% of internships result in full-time offers. And so at the most practical level, for those of you that are interested in applied experience or experiential learning opportunities that might ultimately lead to full-time employment, internships are the primary way that can get done. And if you talk to HR leaders at, I mean, just area companies here in West Michigan, even some big ones like Stryker and Whirlpool, Wolverine Worldwide, Kellogg, Steelcase, when you talk to these companies, they're actively recruiting really quality interns because they don't want to have to do more recruitment and more expensive recruitment for full-time opportunities. They want to drive they call it their intern conversion rate as high as they can. So if they have a class of 50 interns at Hayworth, they want 35 to 40 of them to have full-time offers once the internship's done. So at a practical level, the internship is one of the primary ways that you'll land a full-time offer. But I just wanted to sort of build on what Jena said too. She talked about an internship can sort of affirm or whatever the opposite of affirm is, disaffirm. I'm going to make up some language like President Bush, the guy that I interned for.
You were an intern for him, weren't you? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can, but that's what that experience is so valuable, because if you know, I mean, there were people that I interned in DC with who went to intern on Capitol Hill. They thought it was their dream to intern in DC and to have this West Wing TV-like experience. And 2 days into the internship, absolutely hated it and knew that they did not want to come back to Washington, DC ever to work. And that's fine. That's good, because it was still a developmental experience for them. It nudged them in a different direction. And I think really where it's valuable too is it can give some depth or some specialization to your skills and interests, and it forces you to think that through. What am I good at? What am I interested in? What skills or interests did God give me and equip me with? And then how do I want to use those to serve the community around me? When you're actually on the job somewhere, whether that's a nonprofit or a big multinational or a government office, that's when you start to realize, okay, so for me, it was, I like people, I like politics. That's about it. So I'm just going to take an internship anywhere that I can. But then I got introduced to, okay, so talent acquisition, recruiting, that's a whole function. That's a massive career opportunity for people. And so that same thing can happen in any field, in any industry that you're interning in. And so that's what I think is really critical about getting experiential learning opportunities.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Matt. Megan, so let's kind of get down to business a little bit here. How do students go about finding experiential learning opportunities?
Great question, and one that Jena probably gets a lot from many of our students that come and meet with her, as well as myself. The first place and one of the best places that our students can find different forms of opportunities is our platform called Handshake. Every student has a Handshake account, whether they know it or not, already set up for them. All they need to do is go to Handshake from our website and use their Hope email and log in, and they are good to go from there. Inside that platform, there are thousands, and I mean thousands of jobs and internships, volunteer, local places, Fortune 500, Fortune 50, places in California, places down the street from Hope College in that system. And we get hundreds of posting requests from employers every single day. So students can use that platform to filter down. If they're in the Chicago area and they want to intern close to home, it can help them filter down by zip code. They can go by preference of a company. Do they want to work for or intern for a big company or maybe a smaller company, nonprofit or for-profit? So they can use that system. They can create a profile. They can upload their resume. Employers can reach out directly to them and they can message back and forth with an employer. So we find many of our employers are recruiting our students through that platform as well, inviting them to apply for their internship programs as well. But it's a great place. I was talking with a student the other day. He applied for an internship at Howie's Hockey Tape, which is a huge brand here in Michigan, and he got the internship. So these are big companies that our students are going to outside of what you would traditionally think. I think a little stereotype out there for our students is the postings in Handshake are just local West Michigan opportunities. So I want to underscore there are opportunities for every route students want to go. A second place that students can go is called the Hope College Connection. This might be something unfamiliar to your student. It's a little bit newer. We launched at the beginning of last year, right in the mix of COVID going on. But it's a platform for networking as well as advice with our alumni, parents of current students, and friends of the college. So the student can go to connection.hope.edu and we'll make sure everyone has the information for that. But they can create another profile. And this is where they can search by zip code, search by industry interest, search by company, and reach out directly, similar to LinkedIn, to alumni that are willing to help them get their foot in the door at their company, or advice on applying for an internship, willing to do a mock interview, and help them any way they can. And I think something I really pride Hope on is the community willing and just embracing our students with open arms and trying to help them any way they can to get that first experiential learning opportunity. Maybe your student's just ready to job shadow, to test the waters, see what they're trying to discern. The Hope Connection can also be a great place to make those connections through our Discover Work program, which I help oversee. Students are guaranteed a job shadowing opportunity with our alumni hosts that register for that program. Every semester, we host a career fair. We had to get a little creative this past semester, and we held it virtually. February 24th, we're going to be hosting another virtual fair. And this is where employers that are recruiting interns for their summer internship programs or even some fall programs will be waiting to meet your student and do a brief 10-minute interview with them, replicating the experience they would in person at a career fair. So if all things go well, we'll hope to be back in person this fall, but they go to their Handshake account. Handshake is the key to everything at Hope, and they'll be able to create their own personalized schedule and sign up for specific slots with the employers that they want to talk to. And as Jenna briefly mentioned before, our SHARP program, summer research, we have amazing research that goes on at Hope, as many of you know. And I am just astounded by the research our students do through the SHARP program and really get good mentorship from our faculty as well. So there are a few ways, but we invite your student to come meet with us to have that personalized experience plan, checklist. Have you had your resume done? Let's start there to kind of gauge where they might be and where they need to go from there.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. Good, very practical pointers there, and good strategies as well. I think this is a job market where we know that the economy isn't as good as it was a year ago. So these steps that Megan talked about are going to be super important for our students to be following through. Look for them, network with our alumni. I think these are kind of the most important things that I would say. Internships don't just fall in our students' laps. It does require treating this like homework, right? To really dig in and find these opportunities.
And one thing, do you mind, Shonn, if I just add one thing to what Megan was saying to just underscore everything that she just said? I had a call last week with a guy who's a Hope alum, senior vice president at Fidelity Investments, works out of Boston. And he was calling to say, and he actually called me to say, you know, the primary way that we recruit for internships is this platform called Handshake. Have you ever heard of it? And it was like, yeah, I mean, that's been our platform for a couple of years now. But the point that I really want to underscore is he was saying that where technology is a game changer, especially for places like Hope, Fidelity, headquartered in the Northeast, used to primarily recruit from Harvard in similar schools up in the Northeast. And that was their primary recruiting grounds. They would never visit places like Hope. We're too small, we're in the Midwest. And so 85% of their interns are coming from Northeastern schools. Now, though, with a platform like Handshake, he said we don't even go to Harvard anymore. We just post our positions on Handshake because we know that we're going to get a better mix, a more diverse workforce, more diversity in our internship program, and that's where schools like Hope now have a little bit of a leg up when it comes to internship recruiting. So just to underscore what Megan said, this isn't just my business on the side posting positions on Handshake, and that's the only internships available. Some of the largest companies in the world are primarily using Handshake now.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. So, Matt, one thing that we may often think about is summer internships, which is a traditional time frame for internships. But one thing that isn't as widely known is that many of our students will take a semester, go off campus, and have an experiential learning opportunity through some of our programs we have there. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one nearest and dearest to my heart is the DC semester. The poli-sci department does a great job with that every spring, but that's also a model that other departments and other organizations that we partner with here on campus do in cities around the country and really around the world. So just for example, so for DC, how that's structured, so I interned at the White House when I interned there. But you can intern at nonprofit organizations. We've got people last semester that interned for their accounting majors that interned at big four accounting firms in DC. We've got people that are English or humanities majors that interned at the Smithsonian Museum, people that work on the Hill, people that work for law firms, lobbying organizations, or even companies like Google have a large presence in DC. So you get an internship that you're doing 30 to 40 hours a week. You're also taking 1, 2, or 3 classes on the side. So you're getting this off-campus experience. It's real work experience. It's nearly a full-time internship while you're also getting 16 credits or however many credits you're trying to satisfy. So that's the DC semester model, but we have that same model with Chicago, where students are doing all sorts of different internships. And what's cool about it is it's not just business majors or psychology majors, or communications majors. Any students can do any of these semester programs. So Chicago, Philadelphia, DC, those are some of our long-standing relationships here in the US, but we have other cities around the country, and even more globally. I just looked it up before getting on the call. We've got Milan, we've got Dublin, Cape Town, London, Cape Town, Milan, Dublin. There's probably a dozen or more other cities where we've got longstanding relationships globally, where students can do the same kind of program and take an internship with a private company or nonprofit organization while getting credit. So there's so many different places and types of organizations where you can get this experience.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Matt. It's something that that the students that have taken advantage of that, obviously like yourself, right? Just it's a life changer, you know, and what a great opportunity. So one question that may come up, and Jenna, I'm going to go to you on this one, is internships. You can do an internship and get college credit for it. Or you can do an internship and have it be unaffiliated with the college. Could you tell us a little bit more about credit, for credit internships and not for credit internships, and what that all means and how that all works?
Yes, so as we talked about earlier, some majors and minors might require your student to do an internship or some hours of experiential learning for graduation. All other majors, you know, encourage, and maybe it's not required, but we do often see students work with us to determine if they should or need to or want to or interested in doing academic credit internships. And what that means is your student will take an academic internship course, and that can be offered in the fall, spring, or summer. And alongside that, they will also, in addition, do hours for an internship. So how many academic credits they get determines how many hours they're working on site. So these two run in tandem, and the benefit is that there's intentionality with the faculty supervisor working with your student alongside their supervisor on site. So there's data that shows that students that are spending time reflecting on their experience intentionally as they do experiential learning get more out of it. And so that's what the course is meant to do. So depending on the instructor, assignments look a little bit different, but it's meant to be reflective in nature. It's meant to ask those why questions. And what Matt was talking about earlier in terms of really asking yourself, digging deep, is this a good fit for me? What do I like about this? What do I not like about that? So the course really runs alongside the internship to allow the students to get a lot out of it. So that means they pay for an academic course. It can be one of their 4 classes that they're taking this spring. And then they may be doing a part-time or sometimes even close to full-time internship if it's more similar to a program like Chicago or Philly, similar to what Matt was talking about. So our students do local internships for credit during the academic school year. And then often they'll do internships for credit in the summer, but they might be in California near home and doing an internship, and all of their connection with faculty would be therefore done virtually and remote. So there's options no matter if the student is local or off-site for that semester.
Great. So there's a question that came in, Jenna. Maybe I thought you could maybe touch on it while you're talking here. What kind of experiential learning do you recommend for each class year? You started to kind of touch on that a little bit. Do you have some recommendations for that one?
Yes, that's a really good question. So depending on if the student is needing to do the experience for credit, sometimes there are prerequisites or academic courses that the department wants the student to have mastered or have taken. So if that's the case, I would say, that would be required prior to doing an internship. But that doesn't mean that the student could not start doing some job shadowing or our Discover Work program or volunteering or getting involved with a local nonprofit to begin trying things out and begin building their resume maybe before that next internship. Or we will see sometimes students do multiple internships. I hate to put a grade level with it because I've seen students do internships after their freshman year. I've seen students do internships not until after graduation. So it really does vary depending on the student and their experience. But I always encourage students to get as many different forms of experiential learning as possible, try things out. It doesn't have to be in a certain order, but the earlier they start gaining experiences and the earlier they start just testing out experiential learning, talking to alumni, doing some job shadowing, the more they'll know prior to kind of getting a more substantial experience. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you. One other thing that I think is just important for this conversation before we jump into questions from you would be, how can parents and families get involved in supporting students with internships? Megan, I'll throw this one to you.
Yeah, so I would say if you're in a position to hire interns or your company would be interested in having an internship program or hiring interns, definitely start getting connected to Handshake. Handshake's not only for our students, employers can create an account, as Matt was mentioning, and put their postings directly on there. If this is your first time ever using Handshake, we've got great support in the Boerigter Center that can get you set up. and good to go in Handshake. That's a great place that you can get your postings directly out there. If you want to recruit from other schools, which we hope you don't, just recruit Hope students, you're able to do that as well. But that's one great way that you can give back. The other one is the platform I mentioned, the Hope College Connection. If you're just an advice giver and just want to support students through that lens, we welcome that. We want to have those conversations started or networking with our students. So you as a parent can join the Hope College Connection and students can reach directly out to you to set up informational interviews, different types of advice you're willing to provide, mock interviews, advice specific to your field or what it's like to work at your specific organization. So that's a great place that we're seeing a lot of conversations going on a regular basis. And then our Discover Work program, which is housed within the Hope College Connection. If you want to host a student for a job shadow, it's a pretty lower commitment on your end. You could host a student for 2 days to 2 weeks for job shadowing. Even if that's virtually, we're living in a new virtual world and getting into a new rhythm of work. And we want to showcase that to our students as well. So our Discover Work program would be great. Hope.edu/discoverwork has some great information if that's of interest, or feel free to reach out directly to our office for more information.
Great, thank you, Megan. All right, I'm going to jump into some questions. We've got a handful of questions here from the audience, and let me go to, while we're talking about website and resources, one question here is there a website for students to find out about the Hope Research Program? And the answer is yes. The actual website that you can send your student to is sharp.hope.edu, and SHARP, S-H-A-R-P, stands for it's the Summer Hope Academic Research Program. I'm sure I might have missed. Is that right, Jena? Was that close? Okay. All right. So anyway, this is the program that students apply to do research in the summertime, which is the most common time. Although students do, they get involved in research really at any time throughout the year. But it's just, again, one of the things that Hope has pioneered, I would say. There's a lot of colleges that are kind of finally catching up and getting their students involved in research, but this goes way back into the history and the legacy of the Hope education, of having these summer research opportunities. Hey, there's a website. Thank you, Kate. And so I think this is a really good opportunity for students to take advantage of. So anyway, great question there.
If I could add to that, I think one stereotype out there about our SHARP program is it's just for the sciences, and that's actually not the case. We have plenty of students doing research within psychology, communication. So if they have a professor that they really admire their research, or just really interested in the topic that they're learning in that class, have your student reach out to their faculty member to see if they're willing to host a SHARP opportunity, or they will be doing a SHARP opportunity.
Okay, yes, thank you. All right, so another question here. Listen, this family access chat we're doing right now is very similar to one that we did in November. And the question is this part of the same group? And the answer is yes. So back in November, you heard from Amy Freehafer and Casey Petro. They are members of our team and all part of this interconnected group called the Boerigter Center. And that's the cool thing that I love, is that everything we do here is interconnected and it just fits nicely together. So part of the question is about a son finishing sophomore year. I'm not sure what he wants to do, eager to get into an internship. Who should my son meet with first? So Megan, I'll throw that to you if you want to give a couple thoughts there.
Yeah, if your student's still kind of discerning what path is right for them for their next best step, I would start with maybe Amy or our other colleague, Yolanda Vega, and your son can schedule through Handshake for career discernment or major discernment. And they're going to walk through a bunch of different options for your student. We have a platform called Pathway U where they can take an assessment, which assesses based on skills and interests, what are career paths that might be of interest, and those career paths and how they align with different opportunities. Job shadowing is a great way to also test those things out before you're committing to a more formal internship program. And so using the Hope College Connection, or have him meet with me to network, get connected with alumni, to have that first connection through an informational interview or eventually a job shadow, maybe a job shadow virtually, can really help answer those questions before they're committing to an internship. Now, it doesn't mean that he shouldn't start looking for an internship and start that plan and that process, because we want to make sure they have a resume and feel prepared through a mock interview as well. So those steps can happen at any point, but having a better idea to articulate, even if that's 3 different ideas, can be super helpful. So I would direct them directly to Handshake, just schedule those appointments. And we're meeting with students right now before school starting. So get in there soon, I would say.
All right, thanks, Megan. All right, next question. I'll direct this one to Matt. Matt, are the semester-long internship programs such as Philadelphia, are those paid positions?
Yeah, they can be. It totally depends on the employer, the employing organization, and the arrangement that the student would come up with. So if you're interning for, well, they just started paying. It's a gripe that I have, but Capitol Hill, it used to be if you were interning on the Hill, it was free. When I interned at the White House, it was free, or you did it for free. There was no pay. Thankfully for your students, now they have started to pay at least minimum wage. So I would say it depends on the program in the industry. The student who did an accounting internship for a Big 4 firm got paid pretty handsomely for the internship. If you're working at a humanitarian organization that fights sex trafficking or some other nonprofit organization, it might be minimum wage, or you might not get paid at all. So it's totally up to the employer and the types of internships you're seeking, but they certainly can be paid.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Jen, I'll direct this next question to you. Can you talk about how you think COVID will affect summer internships this year? So what are you hearing? Are companies still hiring as much? What do we know?
Yes,
Great question, by the way.
that is a great question. And we are keeping a close eye on it. And, this has just been a strange year and not one that we've ever worked with before. We're kind of learning as we go. We did see an active fall recruiting. So we had a career fair with lots of opportunities for students to virtually meet with employers. And we have heard of students that have already secured summer internships. And then we always see a second wave in the spring as well. The difference in what we're seeing right now, though, is usually January is a very active month for internship postings. And we're predicting that things will be shifted just slightly this year, because employers are hesitating just a tiny bit until we can kind of figure out what summer might look like with the vaccine, and if things will be in person or hybrid or combination. So we have seen some hesitation from some of our go-to employers, not that they don't want to hire interns for the summer, but that they're trying to figure out what the avenue will look like. So I do think that this is a very different year. And I've been encouraging students to really rely heavily on networking as well as a strategy for their internship search alongside what's actually posted in Handshake. So we're seeing that, we're still having a virtual career fair in February. Many of the colleges and universities in Michigan have pushed their start date back to close to February, which that just makes the entire semester kind of shift slightly. So I imagine that we'll be seeing more postings and activity in February with more offers in maybe March, April, and things will just be slightly shifted as people, determine their plans for the summer. But lots of activity from employers. We like I mentioned earlier, there's a team of us that meets every week and reviews all the active postings, what's new, and then we're always trying to connect students to those opportunities as soon as they're coming in, so that our students can be taking advantage of these opportunities as well.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Jenna. That's consistent. Just one of the things I did last week, I listened in on a phone call with career center directors from colleges from across the country, and they're saying the same thing. The companies that recruit at their colleges are also holding off for a second, kind of pausing, wanting to see what this summer is going to look like. So, not a surprise. I'm encouraged that we'll start to see it pick up as the spring goes on here.
I should probably say one more thing. Can I add, Shonn?
Yeah, go for it.
So the other thing that, is unlike any year is we had quite a few students that were not able to do internships or experiential learning last summer because the pandemic hit and everything was so new and scary. So now we know a lot more and we're smarter and we know how to work virtually. So what that means though is that all of the students from last summer that maybe didn't get internships or couldn't get experiences are also trying again for this summer. So whatever that means for competition or opportunities in that way. Also, there's sometimes more opportunity just because of the virtual aspect. So students can apply for that New York City internship, maybe if it's remote and they have no interest in moving there, but it does open up additional opportunities and increase applications, I think, for roles as well.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Jenna. Here's one question that Beth answered, but I'll just repeat it. So is there summer housing available for students who might do research on campus? And the answer is yes. We've got our campus housing is set aside for our summer research students. Also should note that if students have an internship in the Holland area over the summer, they also get top priority in terms of summer housing. It's not free, but it is available. Which is a big consideration for thinking about where would you do an internship during the summertime. So that's another point to share. A couple more questions. Let's see. What is the biggest mistake you see students make when they are involved in experiential learning? So and anyone want to jump in on that one? Megan, go ahead.
I can start. I think a word our students don't like to hear is failure. I think learning how to make mistakes is so healthy in college. Learning what you don't like is healthy. And so I think students put undue pressure on themselves in that process to make mistakes and get constructive feedback, maybe for the first time, that's a little bit more direct. So I think just embracing mistakes, embracing failure, and learning what you like and don't like can be a huge part of that. And I think commitment is huge and something that we sometimes see, unfortunately, that when a student commits to an internship, that is Hope's brand. That's that student's brand and the employer's brand out there, that if they're going to make the commitment, they really need to follow through and communicate. And we see students who maybe will accept an internship and then decide that they got something better. So they have to be prepared to navigate that for the first time. And we're willing to help work through those hard conversations. But those would be a couple of things that we tend to see as far as making mistakes and hopefully making the right decision at the end of the day.
Two other big ones that I often see related to the student application process. Sometimes I'll see students just put all their eggs in one basket. They have that dream internship or that dream research, and they will only apply to that one opportunity. And that really limits, what they can do, especially when I hear them say it's end of March and they heard back and it's a no, and now they're at square one. So always just encouraging students, this is your chance to try different things. And make sure that you cast the net wide, apply widely, especially as, it's a strange year and things are changing. It's a good idea to apply for a variety of opportunities and not just get your hopes up just for one. So wide variety. And the other thing that I sometimes see as a mistake, which I would say our office would gladly work with the student and wrap our arms around them, but still we would see this as, oh man, a lost opportunity. If a student is a senior, second semester, doesn't have a resume, has nothing really on their resume because they haven't tried out anything, they haven't done any experiential learning, we think, oh gosh, how did we miss this student? And where did we go wrong? And we want to meet with students as early as possible so that they really can start trying out different experiences, job shadowing, internships, research, etc., so that they feel confident when they are putting their resume out for senior year graduation or graduate school experiences.
I'd probably also add networking to that too. I think our students don't do enough networking. I think it's a very intimidating thing that maybe they're doing for the first time. I love working with those students and pumping them up to have those first conversations. And many times I tell them there are parents that want to support you and help you network. They love you just like they love their student at Hope. So I think networking is an important part of that process. That aligns itself with the application process. Get your foot inside the door to say, what questions are they going to ask me during the interview? How can I help my resume stand out in the application process? Would you pass my resume along to somebody at the company? And so I think that's a really important part. About 69% of jobs and internships are found through that networking process.
Yeah, I was just going to underscore what Megan just shared about networking. I think the biggest mistake that I see is students that gauge the success of their job search or internship search by how many times you click apply, apply, apply. So you could come to us and say, hey, I applied for 40 internships, but I'm not hearing anything. What's going on? That's good. That's part of it. But also take advantage of the opportunities to figure out who from the Hope Network is at that company or in that industry that you're applying to. Who are some aunts, uncles, neighbors, parents, how can you get connected to somebody in that industry? So networking is so critical. And I think as companies have moved to applicant tracking systems and it's just become this web-based electronic process, I think sometimes it's easier for students, I'm stereotyping a bit, but for students that would maybe be more hesitant to pick up the phone and actually call somebody than it is to just hit send on an email or click apply. You've got to follow up with the networking as well.
Yeah, excellent point, Matt and Megan. I think that just really ties home the the power of making connections with our alumni, and it makes all the difference. So we're sending that message to students all the way through their 4 years at Hope. Networking is not a scary thing. There's ways to make this work really well. So anyway, thank you. Good comments. I just got a couple more quick questions. So one question is, what is the most amazing internship you've heard of that a Hope student did? Or maybe not necessarily internship, but experiential learning opportunity. Matt, I don't know. I mean, you being a White House intern, I think that's pretty darn impressive. But what else is there? Any other good ones that we've heard of?
Yeah, well, and one thing I'd point out too is it's not just me. I talked about Matt Scogan coming into my experience at Hope. Part of the reason I chose Hope was because the chair of the political science department at the time told me we've had 7 White House interns already in the Bush administration, and this was back in 2002 that I was deciding that, so that we just have this pipeline to some really cool organizations. And so, yeah, I mean, just in our department, the business department, within the last few years, you could rattle off organizations like the St. Louis Cardinals, certainly global companies like Whirlpool, Kellogg's, PNC Bank at their corporate headquarters in Pittsburgh. But I think what's really neat is we also have a regular pipeline into places by specific industry. So for accounting specifically, every single year we place at least 3 of the 4 big 4 accounting firms. And a lot go to the largest regional firms in the area as well. Within banking, every year we're placing somebody, at least 1 to 2 at a place like JP Morgan. And then beyond that, I know we're asking like big flashy names, but I also think it's really cool, some of the local nonprofits and local companies where students are getting really consequential experiences. One sticks out in my mind, a student who interned at a really small furniture manufacturer based in Holland, not one of the big names that you might recognize, interned in finance, and now a year and a half later, he's now the director of finance and HR at the company, employed full-time, and that's all just because of an internship experience he had. So I just think we've got a really cool track record of small company, big nonprofit, local nonprofit, multinational company, where we've got a neat alumni base.
My favorite was the FBI. I was working with this student and she couldn't tell me anything about it. I was like, what? You do top secret stuff. She got a top secret security clearance. So I think, and she just like knew she wanted to intern at the FBI in the Detroit office, and now she works for Google. And she's like, and I still can't tell you what I did there, but I thought that was pretty unique one.
That's great.
I love that story too. Just this week, I worked with a student that's applying for an internship at NPR, and another one that is applying at Elle Magazine in New York City, and another one that was applying at the CIA. So I think what's cool is what's cool to the student, right? They get super jazzed about it, and that really varies so much depending on the student. Maybe they want to intern with a pediatrician and do clinical shadowing, but yeah, stories, oh man, we would need like another couple hours to keep sharing these.
Well, my daughter has decided she wants an internship for the CBS TV show Survivor. So let's start working on that, gang. Okay, let's figure out how to do that. All right. So we have time for one last quick question, Jenna. I think maybe you can touch on this one real quick. How does a student follow up after they apply for a position on Handshake? In the old days, we were taught to email and reach out to the hiring manager to follow up and after sending a resume. So what would you say in today's world? What would you recommend?
That's where I think networking definitely steps in here, where we can get personal Hope connections or more personal connections to do that sort of follow up. Absolutely, Handshake is nice because it allows you to see where you stand, if you're pending or if you've been reviewed. So the employer can actually change your status right in there, and students can see that in live time, which is really helpful. And then often Handshake, kind of like LinkedIn, they have a company page, and often there's an HR contact or a contact of the company associated with the company. So we are encouraging students as well to follow up, go to the career fair, talk to them there, in addition, outside of just networking and doing that email follow-up.
Okay, well, hey, thank you so much, Megan, Matt, Jenna. We're right at the end of our time here. Really appreciate your time and expertise and just and sharing what you know, and really to the benefit of our students, to all the work you do. It's no doubt in my mind that your passion for serving our students is unquestionable. So thank you so much for everything that you do. Just to wrap up with a couple of quick things to share. Number one, Monday, first day back on campus for all of our students, first day of class. We are starting our 30-day challenge right away next week to get involved in some great webinars and some great seminars that we've got going the last 30 days, leading right up to our February 24th career fair, which Megan mentioned. And so please give your students a nudge to become a part of the 30-day challenge. If they do, they'll be well prepared for the career fair and have a resume reviewed and ready to go. So take advantage of that. Next thing I wanted to just make a quick announcement for is the Hope College Connection. You heard Megan talk about it a couple of times tonight, but for parents, this is something that we'd love for you to get engaged in as well. The opportunity for you to put in your profile, tell and work with students other than your own son or daughter about sharing your career path and what advice you might want to give. So we highly recommend getting involved in that one as well. And last but not least, we've got one more family access chat featuring the Boerigter Center, and that will be March 2nd at 7 p.m. We'll have four additional team members who you haven't met yet, who are going to be a part of this one. And the focus is going to be on calling in career and the vocational journey. So we're really excited to have that one and host this next one as well. So with that, thank you, Beth and Kate and Shanda behind the scenes on making this all happen. And here's ways to get connected with us. Love to stay in touch with you, and please feel free to reach out through our channels here for any follow-up or any other questions you have. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.